She only wanted to fit in. A new school, a fresh start. Yet the very thing she couldn't change became the reason she was targeted. The whispers turned to laughter, and the laughter turned into something much darker. But no one expected what came next. Was this just cruelty? Or the beginning of a lesson that would shake everyone to their core? This is not just her story. It's a story about the truth we often refuse to face. For Maya, the first day at her new school felt like the beginning of something hopeful. She had always been the kind of girl who loved learning, who dreamed of becoming a writer, and who believed that a new place meant new friends. She carried her books close, walking through the crowded halls, trying to ignore the nervous knot in her stomach. At first it seemed ordinary. Lockers slamming, kids laughing, teachers hurrying by. But then came the stares. Long, cold stares that followed her down the hallway. Whispers she couldn't quite hear, but she knew were about her. Maya tried to brush it off, telling herself it was just nerves. What she didn't know was that those whispers would soon grow louder, and far more dangerous. At first, Maya told herself the stares didn't matter. But it didn't take long before the whispers turned into open laughter. Every time she walked into class, she felt the same thing, eyes locking onto her skin before darting away with a smirk. When she raised her hand to answer questions, some students rolled their eyes, muttering under their breath. By lunchtime, the comments became bolder. "Why don't you sit somewhere else?" one girl said, her tone dripping with mock sweetness. Another snickered, "She probably doesn't even belong here." Maya kept her head down, clutching her tray like a shield. She ate quickly, pretending not to hear, pretending not to care. But inside, her chest tightened with every word. The next day, things escalated. Her locker was covered in scribbles, ugly words, some so cruel they burned into her mind. She stood frozen, staring at the black marker that screamed what they really thought of her. A group of kids watched from down the hall, laughing, daring her to react. She wanted to cry, but instead she forced her hands to keep turning the dial, pretending the words didn't exist. But it didn't stop there. In gym class, when she tried to join a team, the other girls groaned loudly, one of them saying, "We don't want her slowing us down." The teacher didn't step in. He just looked away as if it was easier not to notice. And that was the part that stung most. Not just the cruelty, but the silence of the adults who could have stopped it. Still, Maya held on. She told herself she was strong, that she wouldn't let them see her break. But strength only carried her so far. By the third week, the bullying turned physical. As she walked home one afternoon, footsteps quickened behind her. A shove sent her stumbling to the ground, her books scattering across the pavement. Laughter echoed behind her, followed by a mocking voice. "Stay down where you belong." Maya gathered her things, her hands trembling, her throat tight with rage and humiliation. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but fear held her silent. She knew one thing for certain. This was no longer something she could ignore. The cruelty was escalating, and sooner or later would reach a breaking point. It happened on a Friday afternoon, the day Maya had dreaded without even knowing why. She walked out of school, clutching her notebook, when a group of students surrounded her near the gates. Their laughter was louder this time, sharper, like knives meant to cut. One of them shoved her bag to the ground, papers flying into the dirt. Another leaned in close, whispering words so hateful they made her skin crawl. Maya's hands trembled as she bent to pick up her things. But before she could, a boy kicked her notebook across the pavement. The group erupted in cheers as if cruelty were some kind of sport. Her chest burned, but the tears refused to fall. She refused to give them the satisfaction. Then it happened. A hard shove sent her stumbling back against the iron fence. Her breath caught, the world spinning for a second. She looked up into the eyes of the ringleader, the bully who had followed her since the first week. His grin was cold, almost gleeful, as he spat words she would never forget. "You don't belong here. You never will." Time slowed. Around her, the crowd grew, phones flashing as some students recorded, others cheering. Not one person stepped in. Not one teacher came. In that moment, Maya felt the full weight of what it meant to be singled out, not just bullied, but erased, as though her existence was a problem no one wanted to solve. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Fear, rage, humiliation, all collided inside her until she couldn't breathe. And then, with the crowd closing in, she realized something. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every silence, every look away, every injustice that had been allowed to grow. The question now wasn't whether she could survive this moment, but whether the truth of what happened to her would finally be seen. Eventually, the crowd thinned, the laughter faded, and Maya was left standing alone, her books scattered across the ground. She gathered them slowly, each torn page a reminder of what she had just endured. On the surface, it looked like the moment had passed, but for Maya, the scars ran deeper than anything visible. That day would never leave her. When she walked back into school the following week, she carried herself differently. Not weaker, stronger, because she realized something vital. Silence had allowed her tormentors to thrive, and if silence was the problem, then her voice had to become the answer. With courage she didn't know she had, Maya began to speak out. To her teachers, to her parents, to anyone who would listen. And slowly the truth spread. But this story isn't just about one girl. It's about a reality that stretches far beyond her school. Every day, countless people face the same looks, the same words, the same silence. Some find the strength to fight back. Others are left carrying wounds no one can see. The lesson is clear. Racism doesn't disappear when we ignore it. It doesn't fade when we look away. It grows, it spreads, until someone decides enough is enough. Maya's story forces us to ask a question that lingers long after the screen goes dark. How many more voices will have to break before we finally listen? And when the next moment of cruelty unfolds, will we be silent? Or will we stand?